Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Chodesh Tov B'Siman Tov in this Chodesh Tov B'Siman Tov in this very special day of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz Haba Aleinu Letova. Today, the first of Tammuz, second day of Rosh Chodesh, corresponding to the 30th of June. Today's class graciously dedicated by Mr. Joey Falak and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his wife, Susan Bat Simcha, Aliyah Shalom. Additionally, today's class dedicated by Nathan Yadgard and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved grandfather, Yosef Ben Salman. Additionally, today's class graciously dedicated for the Refuah Shlema of Leah Bat Sara, Malka Bat Chaindol, and Malka Haya Bat Joyce Simcha. May Hashem give him Refuah Shlema among all of the Holim of Am Israel. Amen. So according to many opinions, today is actually, today's class, I apologize for that, also dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat Halfon Ben Miriam, Mr. Halfon Kabaso, Alav Shalom, Miss Neshama, have an Aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. According to most opinions, today is the yortzeit of Yosef HaSaddik. Last night, I know that there was a large entourage of people who went to pray in the kever of Yosef, which is in the city of Shechem. Nablus, also known in the world of politics, a kind of a dangerous place, but I heard that Baruch Hashem, they were able to go and live in peace, although there were a couple of attacks to the kever, but Baruch Hashem, Hashem protected the Jewish people as He always does. So there is a lot of things what to say about Yosef HaSaddik. Maybe I'll start by the introduction that the Moed Kol Hai brings in the month of Tammuz. And it says, there are two Saddikim that are connected to the month of Tammuz. One is called Yaacob Avinu, the father of Yosef, and the fact that Yosef has the yortzeit on Rosh Chodesh, that means that Yosef also has a connection to the month of Tammuz. The Torah says in Perashat Vayeshev in Bereshit, Ele Toledot Yaacob Yosef. These are the generations of Yaakov Yosef. The Torah is hinting us that although Yaacob Avinu had a loving relationship with all his children, obviously, but there was one son that Yaakov Avinu invested tremendously, and his name was Yosef, because we cannot forget the fact that Yosef was the son of Rachel, and Rachel was supposed to be the only wife of Yaakov Avinu. That history tells us otherwise, but if you remember when he goes to the house of Lavan, what does he say? Berachel bitcha haketana. Why was Yaakov Avinu so specific when he's telling Lavan, I'm going to work for Rachel, your daughter, the younger one? The short answer is that Lavan was just such a trickster, always with a shtick, Ramai, that Yaakov was afraid that maybe Lavan will switch the identity of his daughter and give him someone else. For that reason, he was very specific. Berachel, a girl named Rachel, Bitcha, she must be your daughter, and Ketana, the youngest one. And guess what? With all that insurance policy, when it came the moment of truth, the whole thing reversed. Leah married Yaakov, eventually Rachel, Bilha and Zilpah. We know the rest of the story. There is no chokhmah, en da'at be'en tevuna neged Hashem. Is a pasuk that says, there is no wisdom and sneaky ways or to outdo the will of Hashem. So looking at the end, as the Pasuk writes in the Lecha Dodi, Sof Ma'aseh b'mahashava tehila, we see the end result, then we are able to understand retroactively what was God's intended mission. So God's intended mission with Yaakov, it was to marry Leah and Rachel and Bilhah and Zilpah. Otherwise, that will never happen, and the Shevatim will never be born. And the reason, and need to detour quickly, the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu activated Leah in this equation, because Leah was suffering tremendously when she started to inquire about her potential shidduch, a fellow by the name of Esav. So imagine you're coming from Israel, right? And Leah says, Mr. Mizrahi, good morning. You're coming from Israel? Yes, I just came. Tell me something. Do you know someone named Esav, the son of Ishaq and Rivka? And what report people gave about Esav? Esav? Forget about it. If you see him cross the street, he's a troublemaker, he's a problematic person, he's very rude, he's very aggressive, he does not take no for an answer. Anything he sees, he takes. So imagine Leah, when she's being informed about Esav, what did she do? She cried. She cried. Switch the channel. Rachel, Mr. Mizrahi, you just came from Israel? Yeah. Can you tell me about my shidduch? There is a young boy named Yaacob, the son of Rivka. Yaacob, Sadiq. What a nice fellow. I wish my daughter can marry him. Can you imagine? You hear such a great report about Yaakov and such a negative report against Esav. That report activated two different reactions. Rachel, Yefat Toar Bife Mar'eh. She was so happy that her beauty didn't change. Leah, the Pasuk says, Aine Leah Rakot. She started to cry. And she cried so much that she activated an update in Shamayim, because the decision made on the planet Earth on this shidduch was between Lavan and Rivka. Lavan, you have two girls. Rivka says, I have two boys. Let's do a shidduch. Why do we need to start looking for potential son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, strangers? Let's marry in the family. So Lavan says, great idea. Your oldest son to my oldest daughter. Your youngest son to my youngest daughter. So in the world, on the planet Earth, the registry in Beth Bath and Beyond of Bloomingdale said, Yaakov and Rachel, Esav and Leah. And I use these modern examples because you see when you get a wedding invitation, they tell you, right? Bride's registry at this and that store. So when Leah heard, she cried. Guess what? Tears activate a response from Shamayim. Lev nishbar benitke Elokim lo tivzeh, David HaMelech says in the book of Psalms. A heart that is broken and saddened, God does not ignore. And what was the crying of Leah? How can she marry someone that is such a problematic person and hoping to have good children in the future? That's what prompted all this reaction. And we know the happy ending of the story. But the truth of the matter is that all what Yaakov planned in his mind was to marry Rachel. And yet, he did fulfill whatever was in front of him, and we know the happy ending of the story of the 12 Shevatim. But there is one added component that is imperative to say. The Pasuk tells us right away when the Pasuk says, these are the generations of Yaacob Yosef. So the Torah is telling us already that Yosef was considered a favorite son to Yaakov. Because according to the holy books, Yaakov, Mehila, Yosef and Rachel had very similar face. Okay? Now, same language on the beauty of Rachel, same language of the beauty of Yosef. Okay? But that's a different class, not for today. But let's continue. Now, Yaakov is investing non-stop in Yosef. Non-stop. And we know what happened eventually. Yosef is sold. Our rabbis tell us that the teaching that Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom, gave to Yosef is what saved Yosef in Egypt. Comes King David, Shalom Mehila, David HaMelech, obviously. Pasuk of Tehillim. The Pasuk writes, Bnei Yaakov be-Yosef Sela. We are called sons of Yaakov and Yosef. Why are we called sons of Yaakov and sons of Yosef? What happened to sons of Yehuda? We are called Yehudim at the end of the day. We're not called Yosefim, but actually we are called Yosefim. The reason why we are called Yehuda are two basic reasons. Reason number one, that the name of Yehuda contains the 4 letters of Hashem's name. Yod Ke, Vav Ke, Yehuda. So the Dalet is in the middle, right there, before the He. So the Dalet is the number 4. And then you have Yod Ke, Vav Ke. You have 4 letters of Hashem's name in the name of Yehuda. But also, there is one concept that Yehuda represents. The importance of Hoda'ah. The importance of a Jew being grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Expressing gratitude to Hashem, as we say in our daily prayers, Hatov Shimcha Ulchana'eh Lehodot. Part of our daily prayers, reinforcing the importance of a person counting their blessings and being thankful to Hashem. If that's the case, why King David says, Bnei Yaakov be-Yosef Sela, that we are the sons of Yaakov and Yosef for eternity? Short answer, there were many things that Yaakov and Yosef experienced throughout their life. They were both disliked by their brothers, correct? Yaakov despised Mehila. Esav hated Yaakov, and the brothers did not like Yosef. All right? We're not pointing fingers at this moment. We're only explaining, look. Neshamot.
You like to hear every day.
I know, they come to learn. After the class is finished, they leave. Anyways, you can take a picture, it's fine. Anyway, so what happens now? Let's just handpick maybe one more besides the disliking of the brothers. Yaakov needed to survive. Three stages in his life. Stage number 1, from birth till the moment that he leaves. Stage number 2, when he goes to the house of Lavan. He didn't go just for the Thanksgiving weekend, or yeshiva break, or Hanukkah break. He went for 20 years. Can you imagine living with your in-laws for 20 years? For the in-laws, if my mother and father-in-law are watching the class, I apologize in advance. We love you. You're so good to me. You know, Baruch Hashem. Right? But let's be honest here. It's not easy. But I said this just to open up this sentence. But can you imagine if your father-in-law criticizes you every day? That's exactly what happened with Lavan. That's exactly what Lavan did to Yaakov. What was the criticism? First, about work. Every time they made an agreement, Lavan, when it came time to pay, he switched the rules. That's already, the Torah says, 100 times Lavan cheated Yaakov. ויחלף את משכורתי 10 מונים. 100 times. 100 times. But you know what was the biggest danger? That Lavan did not want the sons of Yaakov to follow the ways of the Torah. He says, leave me the children, I will take care of them. You continue with your old-fashioned traditions. I need to take care of them. And that's the reason why Yaakov, when he goes back to Israel and meets Esav, what is the first message that Esav receives from Yaakov? Rashi says it. Im Lavan garti by Harad Atta. It says, I lived with Lavan, yani on a temporary basis. Rashi says, why does he use such a strange language to say, I lived with Lavan? Rashi brings a hint that Garti Otiyot Tariag. I observe the mitzvot of the Torah, but Rashi adds one more message. Velo lamadti mima'asav hara'im. Not only that I was able to follow the mitzvot, but I did not learn from him anything negative. Many times, a person may do the kiddush, may eat matzah in Pesach, may come to the synagogue for 5 minutes to listen to the shofar, but that doesn't mean that they live a true, meaningful life. That means they do whatever they want. Sporadically, they remember about Judaism. Yaacob Avinu says to Esav, not only that I survive, but my children survive without learning negative things from Lavan. That's the reason why I wanted to say something, but I'm going to put it on hold. I'm going to switch. That's the reason why the Torah compares Yosef to Yaakov. Let's fast forward Yosef. His brothers didn't like him. He was sold as a slave. Where did he land at the end, Yosef? In Egypt. Now, can you imagine being a teenager back then by yourself in Egypt, which was the worst decadent place of the world? Immorality and idolatry were the main favorite pastimes of the Egyptians. So imagine Yosef being there. So if Yosef, God forbid, would have failed spiritually, we would have said Hazid, Nebach. He didn't have anything. He didn't have friends, family, circumstances of life, no Torah, no Safra Synagogue. He had nothing. And yet, he survived. Where the strength of surviving came from? Yaakov, Hashem, obviously. Because if Hashem doesn't hold our hand, we don't walk to the door. Hashem, but Hashem many times, he sends you a shaliach, sends you a messenger. Yaakov was this messenger. That's why, if you remember one of the most dramatic parts of the Torah, when finally the wife of Potiphar, Zuleika, right, comes to seduce Yosef HaSaddik, what did she do to him? She put him against the wall. Literally. And what Rashi says, suddenly, Ra'ad yukno shel aviv. Suddenly, the image of Yaakov popped up. What did Yosef do? Bayanos ahutza. We just said it in the Hallel. Hayam ra'a bayanos. The ocean saw and retrieved. What did the ocean see? Short answer. Arono shel Yosef. The coffin of Yosef that was carried through the desert. In the beginning by Moshe Rabbeinu. And then by the two Jewish people, according to one opinion, that came to Moshe and asked, Moshe, we want to do Korban Pesach. Anachnu teme'im lenefesh adam. They said to Moshe, we are impure. The whole Jewish world is doing Pesach, Korban, and we cannot. We are penalized because we're doing a mitzvah. What mitzvah they were doing? Carrying the remains of Yosef. That's why the pasuk says, Anachnu teme'im lenefesh adam. So the pasuk writes, when Yosef escapes from Potiphar's wives, Bayanos ahutza, he ran away. The same pasuk says in the Hallel, Hayam ra'a Bayanos, Chodesh Tov v'Siman Tov. The ocean says, oh, that's the coffin of Yosef? Forget about it. I better take a step back. I can't stand in front of him. That's what prompted the splitting of the Red Sea. We just said it now in the Hallel. So with this introduction, it's a 20-minute introduction, but I think it's important. We understand now the foundation of the month of Tammuz. Yosef for being the yortzeit today, and Yaakov because Yaakov has the ownership of the month. But I must tell you the second part. I hope it will not be that long, but I'll tell you. Comes the Ben Ish Hai. The Ben Ish Hai quotes a Moed Kol Hai. Please pay attention to the details that I'm going to share with you now. It's a bit from a Kabbalistic perspective, but very powerful. Says the Moed Kol Hai that when it came to Yaakov understood that he needs to establish the Jewish people. Abraham and Isaac, they did what they did. They were the founding fathers. They set up the stage for Yaakov. But now that Yaakov has a table of 12 children and 70 descendants, in the beginning of the Perashah, in Shemot, Yaakov says, if this is now who I'm becoming, I need to structure the future for the Jewish people. But he couldn't do it by himself. There was a partner to this transaction. You know who the name of the partner was? Esav. Esav. Despite everything that we know about Esav, no one can deny that Esav was conceived by holy parents, Isaac and Rivka. Correct? Despite his behavior, and I'm not trying to glorify Esav. Esav has a nickname attached to his name that we don't usually say it because it's a very negative nickname. We say Esav Rasha usually, Esav the wicked one. But remember that the beracha of Isaac to Yaakov was divided in two parts: the physical aspect of life and the spiritual aspect of life. So Yaakov and Esav, they have a meeting. We have in front of us the Jewish calendar. Who is going to run the show of the Jewish calendar? Yaakov or Esav? If Esav does it, we are in trouble, big time. So Yaakov steps up to the plate, and I'm going to try to go through the Jewish calendar very quickly. Yaakov says, I start. I take Nisan, Sivan, Iyar. The opposite. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan. The month of Pesach, Pesach Sheni, Shavuot. So far, so good? You're happy with that deal? Beautiful. Comes Esav. I said, استنى شوية. Now I need. Okay. Take Tammuz, Av, and Elul. These 3 months. What do we have on Tammuz? The fast day. 17 of Tammuz. What do we have in Av? Tisha B'Av. Now we have the fast days. They are falling in the month that the management is Esav. We need to understand. I'll tell you one more. It's coming soon. You know that there is such a concept of the zodiac signs? Aries, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. What's the symbol of this month, Tammuz, according to the Torah? No? Sartan. What's in English, Sartan? Cancer. Isn't there a horoscope sign called Cancer? Why is it called Cancer? Couldn't find a nicer name to give to the month? Short answer, because the position of the stars in the heaven, they form that type of imaging in the heavens. Not easy for us to see, but that's what's written in the holy books. And that's why it says, Yeme Tammuz ve'yeme Av hen yeme sakana b'midat hatin. It says that the month of Tammuz and Av are problematic days. And we see it through history. How many calamities took place during the time of the 17th of Tammuz? How many calamities and even more tragedies came through the month of Av? Why does that happen? Very simple. Because there is a virus in these 2 months. This virus is called Esav. And that's why you have the headaches. But says the Ben Ish Chai, out of Hashem's ultimate love for the Jewish people, even to the troublemakers, he gave them restrictions. What does it mean? That the painful days of Tammuz only begin on the 17th, with the day of the Ta'anit. From now till the next 2 weeks, you can get married, listen to music, do whatever you want. Comes the 17th of Tammuz, now we need to tone down. No music, no marriages, etc. Until Tisha B'Av. So from 60 days of challenging management, how many days really Esav is in the driver's seat of the month? 3 weeks. From the 17th of Tammuz till Tisha B'Av, we have 3 weeks. And that's why there is the halakha called Ben HaMesarim, Sheloshet HaShavuot. That's what the Ben Ish Chai says. 3 weeks only, we give Esav something. And that's why, as soon as Tisha B'Av finishes, few days later, what do we have? Tu B'Av. The 15th of Av. And what the Gemara writes in the Mishnah as well, in Ta'anit, there were no better holiday to the Jewish people like the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. So far, so good. Now comes your question. Elul. What happened to the month of Elul? Short answer. We know that the month of Elul, okay, There are three things that I like to say. And with those three things, I think that for today, we're going to say Dayenu. Fair enough?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll write them down quickly. I wrote them, so I go in the chronological order. I ask you a question. Let's go back a minute to the horoscope or to the zodiac. What symbol is the month of Elul? Virgo. What's Virgo? Betula. Virgo is in Latin. In English, it's called virgin. What does it mean, virgin? Respectfully to the ladies. What does it mean? A girl that is pure from birth. No fooling around. Okay? Now, why this month, Elul, is connected to this symbol? What has to do the symbol of a maiden girl to Elul? Short answer. Elul is the month of Teshuvah. And when the person does Teshuvah, you can reset the button of your neshama and you become as pure as a girl that was never touched by a man. That's why it's called Betula. Good, huh? But there are two more benefits. Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember the scene of the golden calf that took place on the 17th of Tammuz? The original reason why we fast on the 17th of Tammuz is simply because the luchot, the tablets, were broken. Then Moshe Rabbeinu waited a period of 40 days till Rosh Chodesh Elul. Moshe Rabbeinu went up Rosh Chodesh Elul. He came down Kippur 40 days later. That's why Sephardic people do Selichot from Elul. The whole month. Plus 10 days. And we're riding on the credit line of Moshe Rabbeinu. Like Moshe Rabbeinu was able to achieve God's forgiveness, so we also pray in the Zechut of Moshe for 40 days for God's forgiveness for the upcoming year. But that still doesn't answer the question. You are Yaakov, right? How do you take away the month of Elul from Esav? Esav is already not happy that from 60 days of Tammuz and Elul, we only gave him 21 days. Yani, don't complain. He wants Elul. Yaacob Avinu needs to activate a formula. You know what? Elias, try un Chumash, please. The big one. I need Chumash Bereshit. I want you to listen to the Pasuk and decipher the word Elul on that Pasuk. Could be a big one, de los grandes. I need Bereshit. Like the art scroll. The big one. You got it? Excelente. Chazak u'baruch. Thank you. Thank you. Chazak. So, Yaakov meets Esav. What does Esav offers Yaakov after they met back from the house of Laban? You know what Esav says to Yaakov? Fadal, come to my house. We'll go together. We'll spend quality time together. I haven't seen you in such a long time. I remember that 100 years ago we wanted to kill you. Now you came to me. You brought me gifts. I see your beautiful family. Come with me. I want you to listen to the dialogue between Yaakov and Esav. Just one moment. Yaacob says, Esav says, come with me. Vayomer elav. Yaakov says to Esav, Adoni, yani, my master, you know, ki hayeladim rakim. The children are tender. Be'asom be'abakar alot alai. And I have such a responsibility with the sheep and flock. So what does Yaakov says? Ya'abor na adoni lifnei abdo. You know what, Esav? Go ahead, I'll catch up with you later. And now listen to the code hidden in the next sentence. And then we'll do it together. Va'ani, and I. Et nahala le'iti leregel hamelacha asher lefanai. ולרגל הילדים עד אשר אבוא אל אדוני שעירה. Translation: I will conduct myself slow pace according to the children and the sheep until I arrive to my master in Seir. Let me dissect for you this pasuk. Listen to the words. Va'ani, what's the first letter? Vav. Et nahala. Aleph. Le'iti. Leregel. Aleph, Vav, Lamet, Lamet. Juggle the letters around. What word gives you? Elul. Elul. Now, Esav says to Yaakov, why do you want Elul? Yaakov answers, Leregel hamelacha asher lefanai. I have a lot of work in front of me. What work? Ad abo el Adoni Seira, until I arrive to my master in Seir. What is Seir? Think, Seir la Azazel, Seir la Hashem. What day is that? Kippur. Yom Kippur. Yaakov says to Esav, I need to arrive to Yom Kippur. I cannot be ready for Kippur by just showing up at the synagogue, Rosh Hashanah, I want my seat, I buy 2 aliyot, and I'm done. I need to move slowly. Leregel hamelacha, you know what it means? Teshuvah. And I tell you one more. Where did Yaakov go after he separates from Esav? So the pasuk says, "Vayashom bayom hahu Esav ledarko se'ira." Esav says, "You know what? I'm gonna wait till Kippur. After Kippur, I take over Tishrei." Comes Yaakov and it says, "No. Yaakov nasa Sukkota." Yaakov says to Esav, "Rohi, after Kippur, I have another holiday. It's called Sukkot. After the holidays are over, you can take Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet." The truth is that I'm not going to go through the second half of the calendar because I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. But I think that now you understand, history in the making. This is how Yaacob Avinu was able to take from Esav the month of Elul and obviously Tishrei as well. Be'ezat Hashem, we'll continue some of the time the second part of the holiday. Let it be the zechut of Yaacob Avinu alav shalom and the zechut of Yosef HaSaddiq, like both of them survived and were able to build Am Israel. Hashem also gives us the koach, the strength to survive our challenging and the newborn anti-Semitism in America. The newborn anti-Semitism in America, things are popping up as close as Boca Raton, as close as Sonny Isles. Don't ask. they were given these pamphlets with the pictures of the media, doctors, vaccines, pharmaceuticals. Obviously, they're trying to prosecute them, etc. But let's see what happens. May Hashem protect us all. חודש טוב וסימן טוב. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה